give me some questions because we're going to have some questions to answer at the end. That would be really great. But yeah, super excited to get started. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Also, frame of reference, I'm just going to be talking for about 20 or so minutes, and then I'll answer some questions that any of you guys have at the end. But yeah, so today I'm just going to be talking about like my journey in the world of money and finance and its relation to the organizations that I am a part of. So that's like Money Girls, an internship that I did, and how this all unfolds being a college student in the real world. And so my passion really started when I took economics in high school. I was in AP economics my senior year in high school, so this was about 2 years ago. And I sat back after I finished the class and I graduated high school, and I sat back and I reflected on all of the classes that I had taken my entire educational career. And I looked back specifically on economics because it was probably the most realistic and the class that applied most to the real world and what actually goes on with people in their daily lives. And so after looking back at that, I realized, wow, this is such a useful class. We had learned so many different tools, and this is something that can be applied to any field of work that I maybe want to go into. And so I really valued the stuff that I learned, like inflation, deflation, stagflation, supply and demand, and how that relates to either being an entrepreneur and how you can navigate that, or being in the world of finance, or going into investment banking. It really applies to so many different things. And I think that also looking at these tools and how other companies were going through this at the same time. I mean, every single day, I remember my econ teacher was looking at like the Tesla stock, and we were seeing how much money it was going up every single day. So that was so interesting to see in live time. And so going into college, I was like, oh, I really like the financial aspect of like the real world and all of this and what's going on with economics, but I'm going into engineering. Like, how is this going to like play out? And so I kind of put that in the back of my head, started my first semester at college, and I got there. I started off as a civil engineering major, and then I realized that I did truly love engineering, but I loved mostly the end goal of it, and I wasn't like loving the classes that I was taking. I didn't love the path that I was going to get to this end goal. And so I was kind of faced with a dilemma, because this was something that I had loved for most of my life. Like anything STEM related, I loved so much, and econ was kind of like something that I really liked, but it wasn't usually something that I was like normally good at. And so I really took that to heart, sat back, reflected a lot, and I decided to completely just like change my major completely. And so I met up with my advisor, and I still wanted to do engineering, but I wanted to do something where I would be able to use the tools that I learned in econ, build off of that. And so I started to do engineering science and human and organizational development double major, which is, and we call it HOD for short because it's a mouthful to say several times in a row. But HOD is basically like our business major at Vanderbilt, and it kind of like adds in aspects of psychology and how like people and organizations work together and how they like help each other. Going on a tangent, but I really loved the flexibility of this major because it gave me the ability to pursue a technical job, but also have that be related to business and finance. And so if I wanted to do something technical related, I could go into like data analytics. But within data analytics, I would be able to help people figure out like the best way to target their customers in terms of like the demands that they're asking for. And so basically with this major, it was like the best of both worlds. Truly loved where I was going with it. That's where I'm currently am right now. But then after I switched my major, we obviously were faced with COVID, and I got sent home from college and was basically in quarantine for a few months. And I think in quarantine, I'm sure as all of you guys can relate, I think we were all faced with two choices that we could have made. And I think in quarantine, you could have either invested in yourself. And when I say invested in yourself, I mean, I think you could have worked on your goals, made some goals, or really just took some time to reflect and do some self work, whether that could be meditation, reading books, whatever that is for you. It's different for everyone. Or you could have decided that maybe you wanted to just take this break and watch Netflix, which there's nothing wrong with that because there are a few days where I did that too. But because I'm a very ambitious person, and so I always have so many different goals, and I have all of my goals written down, but because I'm so involved on campus and my schedule is pretty demanding, I usually don't have much time to invest in my goals. And so I really took the opportunity that was given to me during quarantine to really like spend some time to work on what like I truly wanted to do. And so this really related to finance because going into college, I didn't know much about finance except for all of my knowledge that I learned in my high school economics class. And so I went into quarantine and I was like, oh, I really want to learn how to trade, whether that's like with stocks or the foreign exchange market. And so I bought a book and I read through it, and it was so helpful because there were so many things that I like personally didn't know that go into trading stocks and all of that. And I wanted to learn what the people are doing on Wall Street, but I wanted to know how to do it myself so that I would be able to do it for myself and not have to like consult someone else to do that for me. But during that time, I also decided that it would be good to invest. And I think investing is something that's so important, but like so very little people know about it or like are familiar with it. But I think that it's like such a key value and skill to have to know like you should be investing your money, because if your money is just sitting next to you or sitting in a bank account, not gaining any interest, it's just gaining dust, and it's also losing value because inflation is always increasing as time progresses. So my great grandma had passed away a few years ago, and I had inherited some money from her, and I didn't do anything with it at that point. Most people would say, oh, I'm just gonna buy some new shoes, I'm gonna go on a shopping spree, but I saved this money because I didn't know what to do with it. And I took this opportunity to invest in it. And so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with like Vanguard, but there are accounts like, or there are companies like Vanguard and Robinhood that like allow you to invest some money into it and they'll put it into stocks for you. That's like the simplified way of putting it. And so I decided to do that because I wasn't doing anything with the money. I wasn't going to spend it. I might as well make some more money off of it. I might as well make my money work for me. And to my surprise, I earned $100 within the first month of investing, which is crazy because it's like, oh, I didn't even do anything and I just made a profit. And so I think that's a really valuable skill to have. But I also think, you know, it doesn't need to be a large investment. It could literally be $100. It could be $200. It could be $50. It doesn't really matter. But I think it's important to know that you can make your own money without, you know, or should I say, you can make additional money without, you know, having to do an extra job or such. And then also in quarantine was very busy. I was talking to a friend about the books that I was reading about trading that I was talking about previously. And my friend goes to Cornell, and I was talking to her about it, and she was like, oh, Sophia, like, I'm so excited for you that, you know, these are your goals and this is what you're doing, and you're actually like taking time to invest into yourself. I'm a part of this organization called Money Girls, and I think that you would really benefit from it. And so she referred me to it. And essentially, Money Girls is an organization that is for women by women for anyone. And essentially, we are just encouraging financial intelligence, financial confidence, financial stability, and giving you information and tips on like anything under that realm, under the sun. And that can be from asking questions about how can I adjust my budget in the holiday season to what's the best way to pay off student loans. And so this was something that was so interesting to me because, one, I am all for female empowerment, and I think that this really called me towards it because of that purpose. But I also wanted to dive deep into my economic goals and the goals that I held for myself. And so I submitted an application, I had an interview, and I was accepted to be a campus strategist for Money Girls. And so basically what I do as a Money Girl is I submit questions every week that are included in the weekly newsletter, which anyone can sign up for. If anyone is interested, I can put a link to sign up for this newsletter in the comment section after I finish speaking. But yeah, so there's the weekly newsletter. I submit questions every week, and subscribers can also submit questions every week. And then additionally, I have to post on Instagram stories like a few times a week, and all of it is like finance related. It has to do, there can be different polls. It's very interactive, and it's a really great way to like engage with some of my Instagram followers. I know someone who came up to me after I'd posted something on my Instagram story about Money Girls, and they were like, Sophia, I had no idea that I was supposed to have a budget, and I'm a sophomore in college, and now I don't know what to do with myself. Like, can you help me? And I was like, for sure. Like, that's what I'm here for.
Hey, yo, Panisi, I'm gonna go poop and then we can do something together. How does that sound?
And then after I did that with Money Girls, I truly feel a purpose in Money Girls because, you know, it's a really great organization to be a part of, but it's also like I'm investing in other people as well as Money Girls is investing in me. And so it's kind of like a little chain effect, which I really love. And then additionally, this summer, I had an internship with KPMG, which is an accounting firm, and it was completely remote, but it didn't directly have to do with finance, which I think is interesting. It actually had to do with data analytics. And so I basically was analyzing sets of data that companies were giving to us, and I basically had to collect like the most amount of information that I could out of it to relay to the companies and give them like what they needed to do with their data. And so this could be anything related to seeing trends with what customers are buying and telling them, oh, like you have a larger demand in this. And I think it's so interesting because everything is really intertwined. I mean, I'm not by any means doing anything finance related, but it ties into finance and economics. And I think that's so important, to recognize, because this happens in so many other industries. I mean, I'm sure that there are connections between, even if you work at like a grocery store, and finance. And so this is why I think it's so important to teach youth the importance of like financial stability and the tools that you need to hold in order to like be successful or be confident in your abilities, because this isn't something that we learn at any level in school. I mean, yes, I learned some of this in high school, but I didn't learn how to like pay taxes in high school. I didn't learn how to budget in high school. And I think those are the most important things that you learn in life. And so being able to apply this directly to what I was doing as an intern, I think was like so crazy, but I absolutely loved it. And then finally, I think being in college is so overwhelming, and it's overwhelming at first because this is like your first time being at a university. This is your first time being away from your family, being alone. You probably don't know too many people. And on top of that, you have to really like manage your money. And that was something that I struggled with at first, because usually when you first go to college, and this may be different because of the pandemic that we're in right now, but my first semester, I remember if I wanted to meet someone, I would like go get food with them. And so yes, we have a dining hall on campus. it's not great. So usually if I'm meeting someone to like get food or something, we're usually like going off campus, and we have money to spend for restaurants off campus, but you have to be able to budget your money and figure out how much you're going to spend, how many times a week you're going to go out with people. And so having a budget is so important, especially if you have a job in college, but even more importantly, if you don't have a job in college, like myself. I mean, I have not had a job while I was in classes at all this entire time, and I'm going into my second semester for my sophomore year. And so I think it's so important because since you're not getting an income, you need to like be as strict on your budget, if not even more strict, because if you do have an income, there's more flexibility with that. But I think important things to budget are like, for example, even if you don't have any incoming money coming for like food, for example, if you get meal money like I do, which is the money that we get to spend for off-campus restaurants, you still need to budget that so that you can make it to the end of the semester with some money to spend on some good food, during final season. But, if you're off campus, you can allocate your budget towards like X amount of dollars I'm going to spend each week for groceries and food, or if places aren't like in walkable distance from your campus, you can say I'm going to spend X amount of money this week on transportation. So this could be like the bus system or Uber, Lyft, Zipcar, whatever it is. X amount of money on excursions or activities or things that you just want to do to have fun with your friends. For me personally, I really love to golf, and so I allocate money each week for how much I'm going to spend at the driving range. It's super, super personal, but it's so important to have so that you can really like stay on track and make sure that you're not overspending, and really making sure that you're like being on top of your budgeting and your money, because it's so important, and it's so easy to overspend, and you can find yourself in a really bad situation if you end up overspending. Additionally, like I said before, I think investing is so important. And no, you don't have to read a book over quarantine like I did to learn how to invest. You can invest so easily. There's this application on, I think it's iPhones and Androids, and it's called Acorns. And basically, any of your purchases, so let's say I go to Starbucks and I get an iced coffee for $5.49, for example. Acorns will round that up to $6, and the additional, so what is it, 51 cents that it rounded up to the $6 for is going to be invested. And that's a really like low commitment way to invest, and really just get into like bigger things. So you can start off with the Acorns app, and then you can go to Vanguard, or you can just keep investing in the Acorns app. You're still going to make a profit. You're still going to be investing. You're still going to have your money working for you. And yeah, but then finally, I think it's so important for college students to learn how to pay for student loans. I mean, grateful enough, I don't have any student loans, but I think it's such a problem today that there are so many people to pay off student loans, and there are so many people that, are in debt years later. And so finding an effective way of how to pay for these student loans, which are the best ones to use, and how you can do this with making sure that your credit score is going up. I mean, that's so important. Like, we don't learn much about credit in school either, but having a good credit is what enables you to take loans out in the future, get a mortgage, buy a house, buy a car, for example. And so I think those things are like what are so important. All in all, I really do love learning about money, being financially stable, being financially confident. And I really, really love just seeing other people come on this journey with me. And this can be through any sort of means. Like I said, someone on my Instagram needed to know about budgeting, and now they're really into money, and investing in themselves. And so I think these are really important tools to have. that's really all I have for today. I'm going to start taking some questions now. And I will also, at the end of the questions, I will put the Money Girls link if you guys want to sign up for the newsletter. I'll put my Instagram if you guys want to see or interact with any of these Money Girls stories that I post. And I'll also put my email if you guys happen to have any questions after this presentation.
Could I ask a question if that's okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you mentioned like a lot about investing, and I'd be interested in doing that, but I don't know if it's just the business classes I've been taking. They kind of put a lot of these like horror stories of people investing and then suddenly they end up like losing quite a lot of money. How do you kind of like kind of lower that fear in investing? Just because obviously I don't want to be like in debt from that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a completely great concern to have. And I think that's something that a lot of people have. I mean, you hear so many things about people going into the stock market and putting $100 in and losing like, or having their share be worth less than what they bought it for, which is so frustrating. But I think that knowing the right, so you have to look at different trends, right? And so if you see, you don't want to invest in like, so I'm speaking specifically on the stock market. You don't want to like invest in something when the stock is already like at its highest or at its highest that it's ever been, because it's bound to go back down. You really have to find like the right time to kind of go into it. And obviously like it's really hard to determine when that time is, which is why I really love apps like Vanguard and Acorns and Robinhood, because you're not losing money, you're putting your money in there and it's kind of like putting it into different stocks, but you're still gaining a profit off of it. And maybe it's like a slow process. So like this past month I earned 2 cents because, the economic stability is not very great right now in America. But I think that being able to invest and knowing that, these things are going to happen and every month you're not going to make the most amount of money, but you are going to make some sort of profit using those apps, and it's also like more reliable rather than like just going into the stock market yourself. And that's really like, I think, very like frightening and scary for some people. And so I think that like applications, like I was saying, Vanguard, Acorns, Robinhood, like those are really like stress-free, easy ways to invest. And it's not usually like a risk to do that.
Do you have any like book recommendations on investing?
Yeah, okay, so I see a few in the comment section about the book that I read, and I do not have the name of it right now. But if you email me after this, I can definitely check, because I'm not at my college dorm right now. I'm home, and so I left my book there. And so I don't have it with me, and I completely am like drawing a blank on the name. But if you email me, which I will put in the chat section after I finish these questions, I will definitely get back to you on that. Okay.
Can I please ask a question, if that's possible?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. My name is Hiba, and I'm interested in studying business in college. I'm a senior in high school. I applied for business administration, and I should be able to decide what field exactly in business I should work more specifically towards. And I would like to ask you, what do you recommend and what would be the best major in the business field? Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that, I mean, it's really up to like your own interests, I think, because you can go into finance and like find out that you really hate numbers, or you can go into administration and maybe realize that you don't like to, write too many papers. And so I really think that it's up to like what you want to get out of it, what your goals are, and figure out like which major best aligns with it. I can't really speak much on a business major because we don't have a business major at Vanderbilt. We have something like very, very close to it. But I'm not like familiar with all of the different business majors that happen at other colleges. But I really think figuring out like what you want to get out of your college experience, what you want to do when you graduate, and finding a major that really aligns with that. So maybe like speaking with an advisor or speaking with a college counselor about that, and really like figuring out what the best choice for you is, I think is like super beneficial. If you want to like invest, I think finance would probably be like the most common for people. But yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, I have a private question, so I'm just gonna ask it out loud. Someone asked me, have you ever heard of Forex? Is it a scam or does it actually work? So I actually have heard of Forex. Forex stands for the foreign exchange market. I am still like trying to figure out if it's a scam or not, just because I tried it for a day. And it was like, it was weird because the organization that I was doing it with, which is what I'm forgetting what the name of it is. But the organization that I was doing it with, I needed to put a down payment of like $300 in order to just start like trading in the foreign exchange market, which I thought was kind of weird because it's like usually you don't need to pay that much for like a subscription service. And so I canceled that membership, got my money back. And that is also partly why I started reading books about it, because I was looking for things online, wasn't getting a definitive answer, and I wanted to build the opinion on my own. I don't think that it's a scam if you're doing it like the right way, but I think oftentimes you can get like intertwined in like these MLM corporations and people that are like making money off of you. And I don't think those are like the most effective ways where you can like make the most money. But I think that obviously the foreign exchange market is like a legit thing, but I think just trying to figure out like how to navigate it the best is like kind of difficult. So I don't think it's a scam, but I think you definitely like need to be like wary of like the people that are like sending you messages on Instagram, like, hey, do you want to join like this whatever, like this group that's investing in foreign exchange market? You only need to like put a down payment of $400. Like that's a red flag, so don't do that. But yeah, I don't think it's a scam, but I think you just like need to find the right way to do it. Okay, I have another question. It says, what do you think of Robinhood? So I actually don't have any experience with Robinhood, but I have a few friends that prefer it over Vanguard, and it's a pretty similar platform. And so I've only heard good things about it. I can't really like speak on it myself, but if you do sign up for the Money Girls newsletter, they do cover a lot about Vanguard, Robinhood, all of these different apps, and like the pros and cons to both of them. So I will put my link, a link to sign up for the newsletter. Let me put that in the chat now. And I'll also put my email in there and my Instagram as well. If anyone has any more questions, I would be happy to answer because I have 2 minutes left. Okay, I just put in the link to sign up for Money Girls newsletter, my Instagram, and my email if you guys have any questions. Okay, great question. How did you manage the stress of adapting to a new major? So yeah, obviously so stressful at first because I realized that what I wanted to do for the longest time wasn't what I actually wanted to do. It's not too stressful after you switch though, because you're actually doing something that like you really love. And so instead of dragging my feet to class, going to these really difficult engineering classes like physics, calculus, gen chem, all of those really annoying hard classes where the averages are like in the 70s, I was like, happily making my way to my business classes and my HOD classes and really like engaging in what I was doing. I mean, like I've always loved to learn in school starting from a very young age. And so when I realized that I didn't love what I was doing in college, I knew that that was a problem, and which is why I needed to switch. But I don't think that there's like too much stress associated with changing to a new major. I think if anything, it like alleviates stress significantly. What is the name of my major? So I'm a double major in engineering science and HOD. HOD stands for Human and Organizational Development. And it kind of focuses mainly on like organizations, people, and how they kind of help each other, how they impact each other. And there are a few other things, but that's like basically the main concept.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, thanks so much, Sophia, for joining us today. It was amazing hearing from you and your journey, and you answering everyone's questions was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I hope you guys all have a great day, and thank you so much for having me today and asking me questions and being engaged.
Thank you so much, Sophia.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Okay, so now we are actually going to begin the teaching, and after this we are going to have breakout rooms. So we can get started on that. We're starting with scholarships as well as what student loans are.
Hello, so I'm Chongyeon, and I'll be going through the first two parts of student loans. Just to check, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So I'll just get started with the teaching. Okay, great. So welcome to student loans. So basically, what are student loans and how do they work? Well, let's face it, college is expensive, but that does not mean that you cannot reduce the amount of debt you're in. In fact, there are numerous ways in which you can reduce the amount of debt you have, and you can make the process much more easier for yourself. And today's workshop will be focused on just that. By understanding how student loans work before you go into debt, you'll be able to make much more conscious choices about the amount of debt you choose to undergo, the types of loans you choose to get, and the plans you create to pay them off. So by the end of today, you'll have a clearer idea of the stuff that are listed down in the slides, so you can just take a look. We'll be going through these 3 points in general, which are scholarships, student loan options, and repayment options. I will be covering scholarships and student loan options, and another mentor will be covering the repayment options later on today. So before we get started, let's go through a few key terms that will be mentioned throughout today. So I'm sure all of you guys are familiar with the term principal. It is basically the initial amount of money you borrow. It's very simply, if you borrow, let's say, $10,000 from the bank, then that $10,000 is the principal amount of money you borrow. And then interest is the percentage of the total amount you have borrowed, which is paid alongside your repayments. And under interest, there's 2 types, which are fixed interest and compound interest. And fixed interest means that it is the percentage of the principal, and it will always be the same. and only the same amount of interest will be charged every single time. Whereas the compound interest, it will be the percentage of the current balance. So the compound interest will change depending on the amount of current balance you have. So yeah, those are the main types of interest. And then grace period, which basically means the time period you're not required to make payments towards your debt. Tax deductible means that this amount can be deducted from your taxable income. So basically you'll be able to pay less taxes. And credit check means that it's basically your credit score. It's about how reliable you have been, how trustable you are to the bank, how well you have been paying off your loans, and that will determine your credit score, which is very important to keep, and we'll be covering on later on today. So first we have scholarships. And you might be wondering, what are scholarships? And I thought, we're learning about student loans today. Why are we talking about scholarships? Well, the first step is that we should try to reduce the amount of debt we'll undergo as much as possible. And the great way to do that is to receive scholarships, because there's millions of dollars out there for scholarships, and you can certainly claim a part of this too. So just to let you guys know, it's something that you can do all throughout high school. So not just your senior year, you can also, you should actually try to start as early as possible, and we'll be covering that later on, of course. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with what scholarships are, but just to go through it again, scholarships are financial awards given to students based on their financial needs or academic merit. So there's different types of scholarships available, and different scholarships will require different things to be submitted. So this may be consisting of recommendation letters or transcripts or essays. And 2 pointers that you should take note of is that you should try to apply as early as possible. So another thing is that scholarships are offered as early as freshman year, and you should try to apply throughout high school. So you should try to maximize your chances of actually obtaining a scholarship by applying all throughout your year, throughout your high school year, if you can. And you should try to ask around and try to get access to as many scholarships as possible. So we'll be going through how you should prepare to apply. And we have made this very simple for you guys. We have written down 4 key steps that you should take note of to prepare for prepare you to apply for your scholarships. So the very first step you should do is the most important one, which is creating a Google spreadsheet to record down the different types of scholarships. And this will consist of the scholarship name, requirements, eligibility, deadline, and you could include other stuff too, like pointers you want to take note of for that particular scholarships. And we generally recommend you guys to include at least 10 to 15 options so that you can refer to this list throughout high school. And if you need inspiration of where to find different types of scholarships, then you can refer to websites that we have listed down here. So you may want to take a picture of this slide or take a screenshot. And another pointer is that you should try to maximize your chances of obtaining a scholarship. And you can do this by analyzing which scholarships will be less competitive. So it's in our very nature that we want to apply for things that are easier to do. So there are scholarships that require essays and scholarships which do not. And scholarships which require essays are, they tend to be less competitive than the ones that do not require an essay. So if you are willing to write an essay for scholarships, then you should definitely try to go for these.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
How do you find a good scholarship?
We'll be going through the types of scholarships that are available now. So it really depends on what you're looking for. If you need more advice later on, I'll first cover the types of scholarships, then you could ask, because I think your question will be answered by the time I finish this. Would that be okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me go through the types of scholarships. So a type of scholarship is hobby and circumstance scholarships. So as the name suggests, they are scholarships that you can apply for based on your hobbies or circumstances. So, for example, if you're the child or the dependent of a veteran, there's scholarships that you can apply for on websites like Scholarship Owl and usveteransmagazines.com. And if you enjoy writing, you can apply for writing scholarships. So these scholarships will usually publish the work of the finalists or winners who have obtained the scholarship afterwards. And if you have strong leadership traits or you have made a significant impact in your community, then you may want to apply for scholarships on the collegesofdistinctions.com. Yeah, so throughout the next few slides, we're going to have a lot of websites listed down. So you may choose to take a quick picture to take note of these websites so that it'll be easier for you guys to assess later on when you're creating your list of the potential scholarships you can apply for. So I'll just give you guys a few seconds to do that. And moving on is the school-specific scholarships. So again, as the name suggests, these scholarships are school-specific scholarships that you can apply for when you're attending a specific school. So for example, if you're attending the University of Illinois, then you would type scholarships for the University of Illinois to search for scholarships specific to that school you're applying for. And some pointers is that some schools actually will automatically consider you for scholarships when you submit your application form. So when you submit your college application form, they'll just automatically consider you for a scholarship. So you do not need to separately sign up for one. However, this really depends on the university you're applying for, and you should really search beforehand prior to applying for your colleges that what does your university require? Do you need to sign up separately, or is it an automatic process? So these scholarships are usually based on academics. So what would be the key determining factor would be your academic achievements, like your GPA or your test scores, your SAT scores, all of that. So usually these scholarships are usually merit-based. And for instance, if you have a minimum of 3.8 GPA and at least a 1560 on your SAT, you'll be automatically able to receive a full tuition paid scholarship at the University of Utah. Yeah, so it's just really dependent on the type and the school that you're applying for. So this is something that you need to do research by your own. And the next type of scholarships are basically, we're just giving examples of the different types of national and local scholarships that are available. So again, you may want to take a picture of this. So for the national levels, you can find all these scholarships by researching online using all of the methods that I previously mentioned. And for the local scholarships, you can type in your city and state name along with the local scholarships in the Google search bar. So for example, Houston, Texas, local scholarships, and then you'll be able to find all the local scholarships in your area. Yeah, so this is just a tip for you guys when you are searching for the potential scholarships that you can apply to. So here are some factors to consider when you are applying for scholarships. Firstly, does your outside scholarships money exceed $10,000? Well, if it does, that means you need to report it to your college. So for most colleges, I believe, if your outside scholarships money, which means the scholarships that are not from the school-specific scholarships, so whatever other scholarship monies that you have exceeds $10,000, then you would need to inform your school's financial aid office, because this $10,000 will be subtracted from your financial aid package. And the second pointer is that you should try to apply to as many scholarships as possible, because it's common sense. Many scholarships means more likely chance of getting receiving the scholarships, which means you have more financial support, and you will need to take up less student loans and pay off less debt in the future. Yeah, so just take note that you can combine multiple individual scholarships together. And again, apply early. This is because during senior year, you'll be very, very busy with your college applications. And so you would not want to burden yourself even further by having, an additional task on your to-do list, which is to apply for scholarships, because that is going to take up some time. And so in conclusion, if you're not yet a college senior, do not wait until the senior year to look for scholarships. So again, about the applying early part, and you should try to begin your search from right now. For instance, you can set the goal of finding one scholarship a week. And even if the applications are not open at that time, you can record the requirements and deadlines in the spreadsheet, like what we recommended earlier, to refer to later. And this can be done throughout your high school year. And if you do this for every week for 1 year, you would have found 40 scholarships to apply to, which is quite a lot. And your future self will thank you for this, because you'll be able to reduce the amount of debt you undergo so that you can comfortably pay off your debt and not feel trapped by your monthly repayments. So that is content for the student for scholarships. And to answer the question that we had earlier on about what is the best scholarship that you can apply to, well, I think that is very objective, because it really depends on what scholarships that you can apply to. So you need to, this is like a lot more on like the personal research. So for example, maybe you are the child of a veteran, then you'll be able to apply for those circumstance scholarships, which would be significantly less competitive than the other ones, because these are circumstance scholarships and not everyone can apply for. And yeah, so you should try to maximize your chances as possible. And of course, the best way of approaching scholarships, I think, would be to apply to as many as possible so that you can combine the scholarship money pooled together and reduce the amount of debt you undergo. Yeah, so you need to really analyze the position you're in and try to see which scholarships would be the best to your advantage. So that one would be the best for you. Yeah, I hope this answers your question. And so we have a quick test your knowledge part. So you can read through the questions. I'll give you guys maybe 4 minutes, maybe like 3 minutes to read through the questions. Then if you feel comfortable enough, you can unmute your mic and answer the questions, or I'll just be going through the answers. So I hope you all have read through the questions. These are very simple questions, so hopefully you can answer them. Does anyone want to answer for the first question?
I don't remember everything, but I know we should put the deadline, our eligibility. I would also put like how competitive it is, and that's all I remember.
Yeah,
And I guess the scholarship name
yeah,
and the requirements.
Yeah, so that's great. You've answered the question. So you just have to combine the two answers together. So the name, requirement, eligibility, deadline, and I think how competitive it is, that's also a good point. So you might want to take note of that. And which type of scholarships can be more. So I think this question is...
The essay type?
Yes, that's great. Yes. can be more
Because
competitive
less people
once we
will
got
want
this.
to apply for it.
Yes. So, I mean, it is more work on your part, but you should also take note that it's less competitive, so higher chances of getting it. Can you apply for scholarships before your senior year?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for a very enthusiastic answer. And what are some examples of places that offer scholarships?
Local companies.
Yeah, so basically, just the types of scholarships that we covered. So, of course, companies, they do offer scholarships, universities, the school-specific ones, and hobby and circumstance scholarships. So, yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Could I add that some governments and embassies can also offer some scholarships that could be very helpful?
Yeah, that's usually I think that's like could be hobby and circumstance scholarships. Yeah, of course, governments do offer scholarships. So that would be like the leadership scholarships, I think. And there's really a different ton of scholarships. So yeah. And moving on to student loans. Oh, just to check, does anyone have any more questions about scholarships? If not, I'll be moving on to student loans. So student loans, at its most basic level, student loans are the money you borrow in order to pay for your college. So student loans are basically just loans that you take to pay for your college tuition fees or whatever fees you would need to study at a college. And this is an essentially, you are getting yourself into debt. However, this is a type of good debt. And we have listed down some questions to guide you guys on how to identify if something is a good or bad debt, but I think it's quite, it's quite comprehensive that student loans are a type of good debt, but if anyone has any doubts to it, you can just raise it up now. Because student loans debts can be labeled as bad or good, but if it ends up being more valuable to you in the long run, it is a type of good debt, because you can think of it as an investment. You're investing for your future, you're investing for your education so that you can get a brighter future, maybe earn more money because of your college degree, and it is adding value to your life. So it is a type of good debt. And yeah, so we're moving on. And this is just a very brief overview of what the type of student loans there are. And here's a quick look into it in the form of flowcharts. So you can just take a look at this. You might want to take a picture if you're interested. So moving on, we have listed down the 4 simple steps that you can take to apply for student loans. And these are very, very essential in making sure that you make the right decisions and you apply for the right student loans. So step 1, understand your needs. Step 2, complete the free application for federal student aid. Step 3, understand and compare your options. Step 4, understand the rough outline of your life after high school. And we'll be covering these 4 steps in detail right now. So here are just pointers that you should take note of, that the amount of federal loans that you will qualify for is correlated with a number of different factors. So your financial need and the year of college you're in, whether you're a dependent or independent student. So I'm not sure if you're all familiar with the term dependent or independent, but dependent essentially means that you report both you and your parents' financial information, while independent means that you only report your information. And whether you're a dependent or independent student will affect the student loans that you can apply for. So yeah, you just want to take note of that. So step 1 is to understand your needs. So how much support are you receiving from your family members? It is important to have a conversation with your parents about this, because this will be able to help you gauge how much they'll be able to pay for your education. And then the second question is, how much will you be receiving through scholarships or grants? So recall that in the last section, we went over the importance of scholarships, and by receiving money through scholarships, you'll be able to reduce the amount of debt you're putting yourself into. And sometimes this can be a lot. So it's important to know that it's important to, make sure that you know the amounts that you need for your student loans. And then the third factor is, how much will your overall tuition, textbooks, room, and boarding costs be? So after understanding the previous 2 points, you may want to take a look at how much a reasonable cost for your specific situation will be. So we'll be going through this in depth later on. And essentially, after you have identified the first 2 points, so how much support you're receiving and how much scholarship grants that you have, you just need to add them together and subtract it from the total amount you think your college will cost you during the year. So at 1 plus 2, at the first and second minus, no, sorry, from the third factor minus the first and second factor. So from that, you'll be able to identify how much money you will need to receive for your student loans. And one important factor is looking into a range of colleges that you'll be able to attend without being under heavy financial strain. So for example, some colleges will cost $50,000 a year, and this may lead to you requiring $30,000 in loans, which is quite a lot. And so it may be a better idea to consider colleges that are less expensive, yet still offer the experiences and resources that you value. So the step 2 is complete your FAFSA. So this is very important to fill up, because this information will be sent to your colleges, because after you send out this information, they'll be automatically sent to the colleges that you applied to, and the colleges will then use this information to calculate the amount of money that you'll be eligible to receive through loans, and as well as the types of student loans that you qualify for. And step 3, understand and compare your options. So we have put out an imaginary scenario, and you may just want to read through this quickly. So the situation that you're in is that you are able to receive more money through your loans compared to how much that you actually require based on your calculations. So the question here is, should you receive more money in the form of your student loans, or should you just ask for only the amount that you require? And the answer is that you should only take out the exact amount of money that you require based on your calculations, because you do not need the extra amount of money. Because just because that you'll be able to receive more money does not mean that you should use it, because student loans, they will take up interest in the long term. So in the long term, you'll need to pay back this extra money that you have received, even though you do not require it. And you will also need to pay more interest on top of that extra money. So it will lead to you being in debt for a longer period of time. So it is just not worth it to, just get the extra money because, oh, you see that you qualify for it. So you're like, oh, okay, let me just take it. But no, you should only take the accept the money that you require. And step 4 is that you should understand and outline your life after high school. So you should, I know that it can be intimidating to know what you want to do after you graduate college, and your plans will change a lot after you have different experiences and have new discoveries. However, it is a good idea to create a rough idea of the financial life that you'll have afterwards, so that you'll be able to, sort of tell if you'll be able to meet the monthly payments for your loans and pay them off without being in heavy financial strain. And you can do this by looking at your intended major or your general area of interest, the types of job that you think that you'll be applying for, that you probably think that you'll be, in this field of industry. And you should also, research on how much on average these jobs will cost, these jobs will pay, so that you can take note of whether you'll be able to meet the monthly payments that you need to do for your paying back of your student loans. So since we have understood what student loans are and the things to take note of, we'll
Just
be going
move
through
to that step 2.
Yeah. Step 2, which
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, this one. Okay, fine. Thank you. I just had to click that screenshot.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes, you can move back to the types now.
Okay, thank you. So we'll be going through the types of student loans. So first, we have the Federal Direct Loan Program. And under the Federal Direct Loan Program, we have 2 types, which is direct subsidized and direct unsubsidized. So from this slide, you can take note of the eligibility and the different things that you should take note of to apply for these Federal Direct Loan Programs. And you might notice that they look very, very similar. Well, they are very similar, except for a key difference, which is that between these 2 types of loan is that the direct subsidized loans are intended to help students with financial need, whereas unsubsidized loans are not designed to help the students with financial need. So when you get a loan, it will begin to accrue interest as soon as you get the loan. With subsidized loans, the government will pay for this interest while you are in school and also the 6 months after leaving your school, whereas unsubsidized loans will charge you the interest and you will need to pay for that interest. However, for both subsidized and unsubsidized loans, you do not need to make payments while you are in school, and also the 6 months after you graduate, which is the grace period, as we mentioned in the key terms part early on. However, the unsubsidized loans will be acquiring interest during that period of time. So the key difference is that you probably need to pay more money for unsubsidized loans, as you'll be acquiring more interest. And moving on is the Direct Plus. So first we have the Grad Plus and Parent Plus. For Grad Plus, it is meant for graduate or professional students. So it is not very relevant to, I think, most of the participants today, so we will not be covering it in detail. But essentially, it's just for graduate and professional students, and it is not based on financial need, but you will still need to file in your FAFSA. And for Parents Plus is that when one of your parents will undergo debt as opposed to you. So it's essentially when your parents borrow money to pay for your student loans. So they are the ones that are undergoing debt. And they can borrow up to the entire cost of the tuition, but they will need to begin making payments as soon as you enroll into college. So here we can see a key difference between the federal direct loan program and the Parent Plus. The Parent Plus means that you'll need to pay, start making payments, once you enroll into college. And for the parents, or for your parents to be able to take up this Parent Plus loan, they will need to undergo credit check. So sorry, did you ask a question? Okay, so if your parents' credit are poor, then they will need a co-signer or endorser in case your parents are unable to pay back the loan. So here's the thing about your credit score. You need to have a good credit score in order to be eligible to take up loans. And then we have the Federal Direct Loan Program. So for the Federal Direct Loan Program, we have the Direct Consolidation Loan, which means that you take multiple federal loans and combine them into a single loan with a fixed interest averaged by the interest rate of all your loans. So let's say you have 3 different loans and are making monthly payments towards these 3 loans. And when you consolidate your loans, you'll be able to make a single monthly payment, which will be less than the sum of the monthly payments for the 3 loans. So you'll be essentially paying less every month, which may result to you paying less every month. However, this also means that the term of your loan will be longer. So this may result in you paying more overall because your money, you'll be acquiring more interest due to the longer time period of you paying back the loans. So we have written down some key pointers that you should take note of on whether you should apply for the direct consolidation loans. So yeah, it really depends on what you prefer, on whether you'll be able to afford maybe a slightly higher monthly payment, or you want to have a lower monthly payment, but you don't mind paying in the longer term. So this really depends on your the conditions that you're in. Moving on is the private student loans. So this is when you borrow money from a private lender, which is usually banks and companies. And in order to get approved for these, you will need to have a good credit score. And if you do not have a good credit score, you will need to have a co-signer or an endorser, so that this person, he's like vouching for you in case you cannot make the payments. And the private student loans are available for international students who cannot receive federal government loans. However, this might still require an American co-signer if you have a bad credit score. And usually private student loans are not recommended unless there's, you are an international student and you have not received any scholarships at all. Like, you just need to get student loans, that you have to resort to private student loans. But essentially, we really do not recommend private student loans because they have higher interest and they're often more strict. So you will need to start paying from the moment you enroll into college. So it's a lot more burden for yourself and your parents, of course. So in conclusion, there are a variety of student loans available, and you may be eligible for more than one. However, you will still need to understand your financial situation and needs, and then take out your loans so that you can make decisions that not only help you pay the cost of college, but will also make the repayment journey much more easier for you. And you should always aim to borrow money via federal student loans and only resort to private loans as your last option. So we're going to have one more test your knowledge part. So feel free to unmute your mic to answer the questions. What are the two main categories of student loans? The two main categories of student loans are federal and private. So the government loans or the private student loans, private loans. What are some examples of federal student loans? If you have been taking down notes.
Is that the like subsidized, that one, and the unsubsidized? I can't pronounce it, I'm sorry.
Yeah. The direct unsubsidized and direct subsidized loans.
Yeah.
That's great. And then the third question is, what are some steps that you can take to decide how much you will need in student loans? So it's the 4 steps that we mentioned.
The first step is to see how much your family members are willing to pay for your college experience.
Yeah, so the first step is understanding your needs. So yeah, you're correct in the first point. So what would be the second part? Starts with F. You need to complete something that your colleges will refer to later on.
Fafsa?
Yes. Thank you. And then the third step is quite comprehensive, understanding and comparing your options. And then the fourth step is creating a rough outline of your life after high school. So the fourth question is, which types of student loans should you try to avoid?
The private one?
Yes, that's great. That's the right answer. You should try to avoid private loans as much as possible because they are much less flexible in terms of repayment options. And regarding the topic of repayment options, we'll be covering that later on, so do look out for that. So we're done with scholarships and student loans. So that's for the content I'll be covering. I have covered. And is there any more questions regarding student loans or scholarships? And we could quickly answer this and move on to the next part.
Are permanent residents eligible to get the direct subsidized loans?
For that, you need to be like
a U.S. citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a permanent resident, I don't think you'll be eligible. Let me just check. No, sorry, wrong answer. You will be able to receive federal student aid from the government as a permanent resident. Direct subsidized and direct unsubsidized loans. Basically, the federal direct loan programs will still be applicable for the permanent residents.
Okay, great, thank you.
No problem. Is there any more questions? Last call. I'm not sure if I overshoot the timing.
No, the timing is fine. That was great. In about 2 minutes, we're going to be joined by Nadya Okamoto, who is the founder of Period Movement and author of Period Power, and she's a student at Harvard University. But in the meantime, you guys can ask any questions that you may have related to the topics that we just discussed. Yeah, so for the international student scholarships, we will be sending an email to you, and there's going to be a website that has a ton of scholarships that you can look at for international students. There are actually multiple websites that we will share with you guys. I think that if you want to apply to scholarships, you have to look at what is available and if like the deadlines have not passed. But I think that like there are always scholarships that you can apply to, and there are like millions of dollars in scholarships. So even if you find like 10 and the applications have closed, there will be at least something that you can do. And even if you find a really great scholarship and it's not open right now, you can just keep track of the deadline and continue to look at it. And when it opens, you can apply to it.
You're not going to that program?
No.
And also, if you guys are not available for one day, you will be able to get the recording, but that may take a while because we will be making it available on EmpowerEcon's website, which we will be creating. Yes, we will be making the slides available, and we will also be emailing it to you guys. For the second half of the teaching content, we will be teaching repayment options. So you will be able to learn how you can pay off the student loans that you get.
Are there any more questions that you guys have? Just it doesn't really have to be about the content, can be casual.
Hi, Nadya. We're so excited to be joined by you. So Nadya is the founder of Period Movement. She's also the author of Period Power, and she is a part of Harvard's class of 2021.
Hi.
Hi.
Am I starting?
Yeah, you're starting.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And I know it's a Sunday. And I am also just really excited to be joining all of you around this message and everything. So I thought I would join. Oops, spilled my tea. I thought I would join and just talk a little bit about my background and experience and kind of, what I've been working on both from a nonprofit and a business perspective. And then I thought I would just open it up to questions if that's okay with the EmpowerEcon team.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead. You can take this in any direction you'd like.
Okay, awesome. Well, as Armida said, I'm Nadya. I'm 22. I'm a senior at Harvard College, and my background is in nonprofits. I started a nonprofit when I was 16 called Period, the Menstrual Movement, and really inspired by kind of my family's own experience with housing instability and really trying to understand like the spectrum of privilege and how I could reconcile the privilege I did have through service work. And at the same time, hearing stories from homeless women I was meeting to and from school of their stories of using toilet paper, socks, brown paper, grocery bags, and cardboard to take care of their periods. And so menstruation is something that I never expected to be excited about and passionate about, but here I am 6 years later, still talking about it and still really excited about it. So I started the organization, not really knowing what a nonprofit was or really how to mobilize for a nonprofit, and just used a lot of social media and engaging people that I met through Google, honestly, to ask questions about anything from fundraising to building brands. And fast forward 6 years, we grew into the largest nonprofit run by someone under 30 in the women's health space at that time. And we're really, really focused on ending period poverty and stigma through service, education, and advocacy. So by the time I left, we had distributed, enough periods to address over 2 million periods for people in need, and had registered about 900 campus chapters at universities and high schools around the US and abroad, and done a lot of policy advocacy. And then for the last few years, I've been sort of on a nonstop book and speaking tour since, pre-COVID. And my book came out in 2018 called Period, Power, and Manifesto for the Menstrual Movement. Published my book sort of the same way that I started a nonprofit, which was like Googling how to write a book and what is a book proposal and how does it look like, and Googling to try to find contacts of literary agents and emailing until I was able to figure something out. And so, yeah, that was kind of my main focus, just traveling a lot, trying to balance school. I ran for office when I was 19, and I think kind of got even deeper into like, how do you use social media to turn out young voters? And so social media has been a big part of sort of my work in trying to do digital strategy. It's also, as an influencer, like how I make a lot of my living. Again, for the last few years, I was chief brand officer at Juve Consulting, which is a Gen Z marketing agency that now works with over 40 Fortune 500 companies, anywhere from nonprofits all the way to these larger organizations and corporations who are working on how to reach young people in an authentic and an engaging way. And as chief brand officer, I worked a lot on sort of the brand marketing, building personal brands and building organizational brands. And this past January, I actually stepped away from everything from Period and Juve to start a new company, and have had sort of this last year of experience raising capital for our first pre-seed round. We just launched on social media and web, and created August, which is a lifestyle period brand that is primarily run by Gen Z. So I'm 22, my co-founder is 21. On our team, we have hired like middle schoolers through people who are decades older than us and have a lot more experience, and are all really focused on the social enterprise side of things, of like, how do you build a really socially conscious business to disrupt a space that is kind of long overdue for this sort of new sort of insight over things. So super excited to be here and open to kind of talk about all of that. I think another thing I would love to kind of answer questions about is around mental health, right? Because as I've talked about how social media is such a powerful tool and has been such a powerful tool both for my personal work and my organizational or company work, it's also really hard on your self-worth, and it's hard to grow up in this digital world, right? I think for me, I am someone who I think people assume has like my life together and like my book and my company, but in reality, like I am still a work in progress, especially when it comes to mental health. Like I am still processing trauma that I've experienced when I was very young, right? Growing up with abuse and domestic violence and experiencing assault later on. And for me, I think the dangerous path that I was on and am still kind of currently trying to navigate was finding my self-worth through work, right? At a time when I was feeling like, you know, what am I worth? And, you know, I feel worthless without like work, or like, you know, as a young woman thinking that my self-worth was derived from my body. A lot of what the work that I've had to do was trying to dismantle the understanding in my brain that, you know, my worth came from work, right? Because then when work isn't there, or when you stop working, the depression and anxiety kind of comes flooding back. And I know that that's kind of a relatable thing that I found with a lot of other like ambitious young people who are starting businesses and stuff, is that idea of, oh, I'm feeling like not so great, so I'm going to work, I'm going to start this, I'm going to distract myself. And I think that's really healthy in a lot of ways. Like that is a productive way of coping in some ways, but it's also a path that I think I've really had to be conscious of, okay, also making time to step back and understanding that that is not the only place that I can derive self-worth from. And there are so many other things that I'm still personally working on to make sure that I have time to like eat and sleep an adequate amount and find joy in other places that are just for yourself. And so I'm super here to like talk about whatever might be helpful to you, whether it be around fundraising or, you know, to start your own organization or anything like that. And I'm also here to start, you know, kind of be in community with all of y'all. So when I was starting, one of the most helpful things to me was I would DM role models and mentors and just be like, having questions, or like, what would they do in this situation? Do they have ideas about this? Would they hop on a call with me? Or did they have organizations I could get involved with? And so I want to say, like, I am here. I'm excited to meet all of you. My DMs are always open. Me and my team respond to every single DM that comes in. So please feel free to DM me. Like, I am here. I want to be a resource for you in any way that I can. And if I don't have the answer, I will direct you to someone else who does. But I'm super excited to be in community with all of you and to answer any questions. In answer to Leah's question, yes, we do recruit high schoolers. And if you DM me, I can send you some more information.
Yeah, I think that you're so awesome, and everything that you talk about, from everything that you've created to what you're doing now, is just so inspiring. And I always like reading about and learning about what you're doing because it's just so awesome.
Thank you. Happy to answer. Have you dealt with burnout? 100%. I think I've not as much burned out. I mean, from exhaustion in junior year of high school, like I've passed out, and that was a big learning of like needing therapy. And actually this summer I spent 6 weeks in rehab and like was focusing on trauma. And like I have PTSD and I have really serious anxiety and depression, and I'm a really productive depressed person. Like I'm able to do a lot and like lose myself in work, but I think that's something that I still am currently always trying to manage, is like making sure that I'm having time to sleep and eat an adequate amount. Why do I recruit people from all over the world? I mean, yes, we have a global audience. We've actually been building a community called our Inner Cycle with the new company, and we hire from our Inner Cycle, and the Inner Cycle is the first place that we go to with campaigns and activations. And again, DM me, I'll send you information about that. I'll actually drop our website, and there's a little link to apply to be in our Inner Cycle. So if you go to that, you can find it as well. And our Instagram is this. How did I come up with the business idea? It was just kind of, you know, I think that I often meet young entrepreneurs who are like, okay, I have an idea. How do I figure out if it will actually be needed in the world? And I think that what we need to do is actually shift that, right? Rather than say, idea, how does it apply to the world? Think about what is needed in the world, right? Where are the gaps that you're seeing in the world that consumers might need? And then create an idea in addressing that, right? And I think that that's something that we see like really differentiate successful companies. Is it's not about just creating an idea to create an idea. where it comes from is you're passionate about this issue. You are seeing this gap that you cannot be thinking about, and you know that you're the right person to address it. And then creating an idea that directly applies to solve that issue, if that makes sense. How do I deal with rejection? Super hard. College app process is so scary. I totally relate to that. And I would say for rejection, for me, I am not great at dealing with it, but something that I have always tried to remember myself in moments of rejection. And of course, rejection is like a daily part of my life, like, because when you go for things and you make big asks, rejection is like the norm in a lot of ways, is just finding so much passion and faith in what you are building or who you are, that the rejection is not going to stop you, but if anything, it's going to fuel you, right? For example, right now, I'm still raising a seed round, and raising capital for a company or new business venture means pitching a lot and getting 99% no's, right? And every day, like, we got 2 rejections yesterday, right? I have to just remind myself, oh, screw them, they lost out. I believe in what we're doing. How can we learn from that and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to learn from all these rejections and kind of keep refining our idea, but still maintaining that passion and faith in what you're building? And I think from a college app perspective, and I know this is hard, it's creating that same level of faith in who you are, right? What you want to do in the world and what potential that you have, and remembering that what college you go to isn't going to define that. And I know I come from a place of privilege of like being a Harvard student right now, but like, to be honest, I don't really spend a lot of time at school. Like, I was only spending Mondays at college, and I hired people my freshman year of college. Like, you know, like for me, I do think that we live in a world where like having a college degree means something different than it did decades ago. And so that's just something also to remind yourself. Tips for managing workload. I'm still figuring out balance, but I live religiously by my to-do list. I always am holding my notebook, which like just has a messy lists and lists of to-do lists that I go through every day. Advice for preventing burnout, I think, again, is like just making time. Like for me, I'm not great at self-care, but I'm trying to be, right? And so I I calendar out like time to rest, trying to have journaling time, and it's hard to stick to it, but also like having therapy every single week. Major is sociology. Fundraising for a nonprofit is totally different for different nonprofits. But for me, I did it a lot through partnerships, through events, through fundraising campaigns, and really focusing on grassroots fundraising. And so that means like, rather than just going off of huge donors, I was going after a lot of like younger donors who would give like $5, $10 at first. Which means that a lot more, I think, like engagement work is necessary, but you know, if with social media and everything, it's possible. I also think for me, like I leaned heavily into partnerships, and I mean, also at the end of the day, like obviously there was something that I was disillusioned by in the nonprofit world, because I left the nonprofit world, and I'm really excited to be in the social enterprise space where you don't really have to think about fundraising in the same way, but you're thinking about building sustainable revenue models to be able to make your impact sustainable and scalable. Your nonprofit. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think that it's totally up to you and what your nonprofit is, right? I started my nonprofit. I did not think it was going to be a national thing, and we were a global organization by the end of the year, mainly through social media, right? And so I think that for me, yes, you can start. I started my nonprofit when I was 16 and when I was a junior in high school. And for me, yeah, it was hard. Like, obviously I've experienced burnout, like a lot of anxiety, but for me, it was really worth it because I was super passionate about what I was doing. And I think that a lot of it, you know, it's also the sacrifices you make, right? Like as a high schooler, like I didn't go out to parties a lot, right? I was always working a lot, and I'm kind of still dealing with the repercussions. So I'm not recommending it, but I think it's when you find something that you love, it just kind of comes easy, and the hustle is just like there, at least in my experience. And I know everyone's experience is different too. Looking for in a partner, this is the hardest thing. I'm still working with this. I think having having a co-founder is really, really important, because having a co-founder allows you to like really lean into your strengths, right? For me, I am very much on the creative marketing side. I do not know anything about financial models, inventory, like operation side. So my co-founder has like filled that role always, and that's something that I will continue to really focus on. But I would say that for me, a lot of it is really thinking about like, how do you make sure that in a partner, you know that they're just as passionate about what you're building as you are, and they're willing to make the same sacrifices. Another thing is like holding a partner accountable is really hard. Like I'm still learning that, and I'm still learning to like respect boundaries too. And I think for me, it's a lot of like just making sure that you and your co-founder or partner are very much in communication, right? Having regular check-ins. How did you gain a social platform? I think it was like posting a lot, doing a lot of conversations. It's also engaging, right? Like when I say I will respond to your DMs, I really mean it. I will respond to your DMs. And I think that having that engagement is important. Guidance and mentorship, like still learning, but a lot of it was just reaching out to people as much as possible, like reaching out to people, cold calling them. And like I still make lists of like, here are all the things that I really need to be working on or thinking about, and then finding people to advise me on those. Yes, I think that there's a possibility to be able to find more menstrual equity in our world. And I mean, it's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing. I think that there's a lot of need for cultural change and policy change before we get there, but I do think that it's possible. And I think that, I mean, I would encourage you to like look, so the nonprofit I started, which I'm not involved in anymore, but like their website is this, and they have a chapter model too. And I'll drop the executive director's name here. And if you can also, this is a chapter director, and you can just tell them too, if you're interested in starting a chapter, that I sent you over. Backlash, 100%. I faced a lot of backlash like in the last year about like how fast the organization grew, and maybe how we could be more inclusive. And for me, like I take backlash as more like really constructive feedback, and I think that all of that is something to really think about. So I ran for Cambridge City Council in 2017, and I was really passionate about trying to diversify the city council, especially in a college town like Cambridge, and pushing for a lot of student engagement and voter turnout. Yeah. I'm trying to be conscious of time too. And so I am open to continuing to answer questions over social and everything. Everything of mine is online. And I'm really, really excited to hopefully be in community with y'all moving forward. Armida, I pass it back to you.
You can continue speaking if you want. That's completely fine. You can stay for like 10 more minutes.
Okay, I have another speech in 5 minutes, but I'm happy to talk a little bit more.
Okay.
I mean, so some projects that I really focused on was around actually the service, education, and advocacy through policy advocacy part of things. And right now with the new business, I mean, for me, I think I care a lot about, I believe that there is a possibility to create really purpose-driven business, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And so even from the company side, we are focusing on building impact in any way that we can. Of course. I'm super excited to meet all of you. Oh boy, Priya, this is a big question. I would always recommend focusing on things that you're genuinely passionate about. I would be a hypocrite to say only focus on one, because I always have a few projects going on. Like even now it's like my business, you know, writing and like freelance work. But like for me, but it's also because I just got diagnosed with ADHD a few weeks ago. So maybe that's it too. But I would say it's totally up to you. It's also about what you can handle, right? For some people, like if focusing on one thing and doing it full out, like that will be better for that project, but also like it might be better for your self-care, right? Like I am learning to create space for self-care because I think I always overbook myself, and that's, I don't think of always a positive thing. opening conversation about menstruation. I think, you know, every community is different, but a lot of it is just kind of opening up conversation, saying, why is this something people are so uncomfortable to talk about? And how can we make this a more sort of natural conversation to have? And did you know that period poverty exists? Advice for becoming a teen entrepreneur: start. Just start. Control procrastination. I mean, procrastination is hard. Everyone has I have it with school. Like, I'm still in school. I procrastinated my finals until like the night before. It was not good. I mean, I think for me, that's why I live by these to-do lists. And my to-do lists are not organized. It's like, you know, just things after things. And for me, for to-do lists, if I'm procrastinating, like, I just procrastinate with other work. Like, okay, I don't want to do school, so I'm going to do this thing. I don't want to do this, I'm going to do this thing. But at the end of the day, like, you have deadlines, right? School for me, I procrastinate a lot on. That's really hard. Honestly, like, I am not the best student. I did not have straight A's in high school. I did not have straight A's in college. This is the other thing about college, which is like, college applications are a crapshoot. Like, there's no like specific equation. I did not have perfect SAT scores. I did not have perfect grades. I did so badly in some of the SAT subject tests, and I still got into Harvard and like the full ride with financial aid. So like, there's no like magic. You don't need to be perfect on everything, right? I'm very opinionated about it because I don't have great grades. Yes. Also, like, their loss.
Okay, so I know that you have to go now. As you said, you have another meeting, but thank you so much for joining us. It was awesome.
Of course, of course. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, please feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, guys, so that was amazing. I think Nadya is so inspiring, and we're going to continue shortly with more teaching, but you guys can continue to discuss in the comments until then, until our other mentors show up. Yeah, I think that, okay, our mentors are coming. Yeah, Nadya is so awesome and really inspiring, and it just goes to show you that you really don't need to be perfect in everything in order to get into a top college or like achieve anything that you want to achieve. Okay, so now we're going to get started on the teaching of the second part. I'm going to share my screen for that shortly.
Okay, so hi everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with the third section, which is going over repayment options.
Okay, so what actually happens after you graduate? Well, you will not need to make payments immediately. There's a grace period of 6 months after you graduate to help you transition into the workforce and find a source of income first. There are several different student loan repayment options available, which we will go through now.
So as you can see, there were 5 different student loan repayment options, and three of them are not income driven, and 5 of them are income driven, making for a total of 8 options. So we're going to go through each of these options more in depth throughout the slides, so you can learn about each of them and which one may be right for you.
So the standard repayment plan is not income driven. The payment is a fixed monthly plan after higher monthly payments than other obligations. The eligibility is all federal student loans. This can usually be paid off in 10 years or 10 to 30 years for consolidation loans. The interest is lower than any other repayment plan, and this is well suited for those who have a relatively high income or want to pay their loans off quickly. This is not well suited for those who want to receive a public service loan forgiveness.
So the next not income driven plan is the graduated repayment plan. This payment begins with a small amount which increases every 2 years, and the eligibility for this is all federal student loans. The timeline for this is that it can be paid off in 10 years or 10 to 30 years for consolidation loans. The interest for this is more interest paid than the standard repayment plan. This type of plan is suited for those who start off with a small income but believe the income will increase over time, or they want to pay off their loans really quickly. So this type of plan is not well suited for those who want to receive the Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF.
So the extended repayment plan is the next plan we will be talking about. This is also not income driven, and this can be paid in a graduated or fixed manner. You must have $30,000 plus in outstanding direct student loans to be eligible for this, and this can be paid off in 25 years. There is much more interest paid over time for this type of loan, and this loan is well suited for those who have high income but other heavy financial payments to make elsewhere, and is not well suited for those who want to receive a public service loan forgiveness. And you should also try to avoid this if you can, as this will make you end up paying much more interest over time.
Okay, so now going on to income-driven plans. Income-driven plans, they factor in your income. They also allow you to pay at a pace that aligns well with your financial situation. And the payoff can be anywhere between 20 to 25 years. Any remaining debt after that is forgiven, or that means that it no longer needs to be paid. So this results in paying more interest over time, and the duration in which you carry debt is longer. This type of income-driven plans are well suited for those who are low income but have high debt, or are seeking the Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or the PSLF.
So the revised pay as you earn repayment plan, also known as the repay, is actually income driven. If your monthly income decreases, your monthly debt repayment will decrease as well. If your balance is very high and your monthly payment does not pay for the interest, the government may pay for that interest. The amount you pay every month can be higher or lower than the amount you would pay with the standard repayment plan.
Okay, so now the pay as you earn repayment plan, or the pay. So this is another income-driven plan, obviously. And this payment is, again, 10% of your discretionary income. And you are required to update them on your income and family size every year, regardless if it doesn't change or not. And the amount you pay will never be greater than the standard repayment plan. The eligibility for this plan is that the monthly payment must be lower than what you would pay under the standard repayment plan, and you also must be a new borrower. This means you got your student loans after October 1st, 2007, which I think is applicable for everyone here that you got your student loans after that. The timeline for this plan is about 20 years, and the interest is that the amount you pay will be greater than those who are not income driven. This type of plan is well suited for those who have a very high balance, and again, those who want to receive the PSLF.
So the income-based repayment plan, also known as the IBR, is income-driven. So 10% of your discretionary income is how the payment will be done. You are required to update them on your income and family size every year. Eligibility for this loan is borrowers with federal loans, and the timeline is 20 years. The interest is the amount you pay will have to be greater than those which are not income driven. And this is particularly well suited for those who have a high amount of debt, want to make smaller monthly payments, and want to receive the public service loan forgiveness.
So 2 other plans are the income contingent and income sensitive repayment plan, which is the ICR and ISR. These 2 plans are not relevant anymore. They're not applicable to us. Only FFEL borrowers are eligible, and FFEL loans have been discontinued since 2010. So that makes this income plans not applicable and no longer put into practice. So you don't have to worry about them.
So onto the public service loan forgiveness, also known as the PSLF, which we've been mentioning. It forgives you for any outstanding loans you may have after a set of conditions. After that, you will no longer have any debt or payments to make. The eligibility for this is you must fulfill all of the criteria listed on the slide, such as work for a U.S. nonprofit full-time, be under an income-driven plan, have direct loans, and make 120 qualifying payments.
Okay, so now this is just a reminder to be cautious about student loans and fraud. So you should always be wary of scams regarding student loans, as you should never be charged money to enroll into a federal loan. In 2019, it was reported that over 76,000 people were involved in committing student loan fraud. There are so many scams out there directed at individuals with student loan debt. For instance, you may receive a call asking for money to help enroll you in a federal student loan repayment program, but just remember that this is a scam, as you will never need to be charged money for a service like this. So please be aware of these scams, as they can result in so much of your money wasted instead of you using it to pay off your loans.
So in conclusion, when the time has come for you to pay off your loans, you will be faced with decisions about which repayment plan to use, and it may seem like there are a lot of options. But some key determining factors about your personal financial situation, amount of debt, and financial goals can help make the deciding process much easier. Tomorrow, we will go over steps about setting and achieving financial goals, which will be a part of your financial blueprint and debt repayment journey.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and test everyone's knowledge. So our first question for you guys is, how many income-driven repayment plans are there? And did you observe the key differences between the income-driven and non-income-driven plans? So if you want to maybe type in the chat or unmute yourself, I'm not exactly sure. Okay, yeah, I see in the chat that it says 5. So yeah, that is correct. There are 5 income-driven plans. Did you guys observe any differences between the plans? Okay, so just as a reminder, income-driven plans do take longer to pay off, and those are the ones that are suitable for suitable for the people seeking to receive the PSLF, or Public Service Loan Forgiveness. So our next question is a true or false question. A standard repayment plan is an income-driven plan. Is it true or false? Any guesses? So yeah, I see in the chat this is false. Okay, so for our third question, if you wanted to pay your debt off quickly, what are some plans that would be suitable for you? So remember, you want to pay off your debt quickly. Okay, yeah, so the answer to the question is either the standard repayment plan or the graduated repayment plan. Okay, so for our last question, it's another true or false question. So you may be charged money to enroll into a federal student loan program. Okay, yeah, that one is false. So you remember that these are usually scams and you should never be charged money to enroll into a program like this.
So in conclusion, student loans are considered good debt, as the education you will receive will allow you to find higher paying jobs, compensating for the debt you are in. However, in the case of student loans, it is even better to try to avoid a high amount of debt altogether. And you should do that by 1, getting scholarships, 2, understanding your financial situation and creating a rough plan before you have taken on debt, and 3, assessing your own life and choosing a repayment plan that best fits your needs.
Okay, so that was great. Thank you guys for listening. That was all about student loans. And first, we talked about scholarships and what student loans even are. And Sarah and Kirthi now talked about how to pay those student loans off. And if you guys have any questions, you can now type that in the chat. Soon, we're going to do activities related to these topics. Yes, repayment programs are after you have graduated, and it's 6 months after. So after you have a grace period of 6 months where you don't make any payments, you begin to pay this off. And it's a good idea to think about how you want to pay off your student loans during those 6 months. So you understand what type of job you have, how high the income is, and then you can decide based on that which type of repayment plan you want. I think that if you're planning on going to medical school or law school, there are repayment plans that allow you to not have to make payments because you're going to continue to be a student. So that's something that you would have to look into. Okay, so for this portion of the event, we want to do a Kahoot. Yes, we will be sending a recording. We will be making it available on our website. So once that is up, you guys can access it there. Okay, so we want to do a Kahoot now, and I'm going to begin sharing my screen for that soon. So this is the game pin and you guys can join. We will begin once everyone joins. Yes, so you were all correct. Great job, guys. You can go to the next one. Yeah, so it's the percentage of the principal that you pay when you pay off your principal. For this one, this is only simple interest for the blue one because when we're talking about compound interest, it gets added to your previous balance every month, and so it increases over time. Whereas simple interest, it's the same amount that's added every month. So for instance, if it's 10% of $1,000, then it would be $100. Not sure why this is not working. So I think we have to start this over because it wasn't loading, but can you guys come back into this? Awesome, we can get started again. So you guys already know the answer to the first two questions, so we can quickly do that. Yep, so it's the percentage of principal that's paid along the principal repayments. Yeah, so it's direct subsidized, and hobby and circumstance scholarships would be like veteran scholarships or those given by embassies that are specific to your own circumstances, whereas direct subsidized are a type of loan that you get from the government. So this is not money that you get, this is you have to pay this money back. Yeah, so if they end up making you more money in the future, which is like through getting a job and being able to get a higher income, that means they're worth it and they're good debt. But if you go under a lot of debt that you could have avoided through scholarships, then they're not as good. Yeah, so that's true. You can get private student loans and you can also get government student loans, but you should always try to get government student loans and resort to private ones if that's absolutely your last option, because private student loans are not recommended. Yep, so I think this was quite an easy one. You have to fill out the Fafsa and then your college will give you the package that you would be eligible for. Yumi is on a roll. Yeah, so that's correct. You have a 6-month grace period before you start making repayments. Yeah, so it factors in your income and you're eligible depending on your income. Yeah, so the extended repayment plan, all of these are income driven, but this one is not. So it does not depend on your income. Yes, that's correct. It forgives any outstanding loans you have if you meet a set of conditions and have made 120 qualifying payments. Wow, good job. That's awesome. Great job, guys. So that was our Kahoot for the day. We also have another activity that we're going to be doing after this, and that is a really cool simulation that helps you put into reality your own specific path. So we're going to get started on that after this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for that for a second. Thank you, Parman. And that's awesome. Congrats, everyone. So now we want to do a simulation of student loans, and this is really cool because you get to make choices according to your own path. So I'm going to send a link for that in the chat right now, and I'm going to share my screen and explain how it works. So I sent the link in the website, and this is basically an arcade by Next Gen Personal Finance. If you go on this website and you scroll down, you get to see there's the Pay for College one, and we can press play the game, and it starts on a simulation and it asks you questions and it helps you pick your own path depending on what it asks. So if everyone can go on that, that would be awesome. Press get your payback and you start playing. Type any questions you have about this in the chat and let me know in the chat once you've gone on this page. And I'll be playing some music in the background while you guys do that. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the game. I can hear it in the chat. 12K debt. But how much would your starting salary be, Isabel? Okay, that's actually pretty good. Like, I mean, student loan debt is a lot, but like your salary is pretty good in comparison to how much debt you would end up in. Again, I think when you understand how much debt you'd go under, now you can like figure out that you need to apply to like a lot of scholarships and try to get as much scholarship money as you can, because there are so many scholarships that you can apply to. And we're gonna wait for about 3 more minutes, and then we want to take a group photo of everyone who joined today. And thank you for sticking around for this long. I know that a lot of people came from very different time zones, and so a lot of people had to leave because it was midnight in their country, but thank you to everyone who joined today. Okay, sure. And we also want to have a feedback form to understand what you guys liked, what you guys didn't like, because we want to be able to improve for our next events, and also tomorrow make changes as necessary. So your feedback is really appreciated. And after we take the pictures, we want you guys to also fill out that form, which is going to be very, very helpful. So if everyone is done, can you guys please turn your cameras on so we can take a group photo? Awesome, thank you to everyone who's turning on their camera. I'm gonna switch to gallery view. So if everyone turns on their camera, we can get started on taking some photos. Okay, so half the people have turned on their cameras. That's great so far. Okay, that's fine. So again, if you can turn your cameras on so that we can take the picture. Thank you to everyone who's turned it on so far. Okay, so I guess we can take the picture now because half the people have turned on their cameras. So if you can do that, that would be great. And I will take the picture now. Okay, I took a few pictures and we will be using these on our pages. And one more thing, I'm going to be sharing a feedback form for everyone to fill out so that we can know what you guys liked, what you guys didn't like for the future. I'm going to share that now. Okay guys, so I sent the form in the chat and if everyone can fill that out really quickly, that would be great. So thank you. Thank you to everyone who joined today. If you haven't filled out the form, please do so. And if you have, then that's awesome. Thank you. Tomorrow, we are going to be having speakers who are actually going to also be teaching. One is a financial advisor who has started a company that has had over $50 million in commissions during this past year. So we're going to have some really awesome speakers tomorrow who are also going to teach about saving and investing and related topics, but mostly saving. So join us tomorrow for that from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. EST. And thank you to everyone who joined today. If you have any comments, you can always email us at empowerecon@gmail.com if you have any concerns or comments. And we will be reading your feedback and seeing what you guys like, what you didn't like, and what we can change for tomorrow and also for the future. So thank you guys for joining today. That's awesome. I'm really glad that you guys learned a lot and enjoyed the event. Bye, guys. No problem, guys. Bye.
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 Hi, Nita. Sorry, I just had a question.
Wait, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So for tomorrow, for tomorrow's boot camp, would you be sending me the saving stuff tonight?
Yes, I will work on that this evening and send it to you as soon as I can. You would be teaching in like the second half of the event because we have another person who's teaching at the beginning.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And this would also be from 11 to 2, correct?
Yes, this would also be from the same time period.
All right. Perfect. Okay.
Bye. Thanks
Bye.
for.
All right. Yes, sir. What were you saying?
I said thanks for joining.
Oh, all right. It's my pleasure. I love doing this stuff.
Yeah, I love it too.
And thanks for having me on the team.
Yeah, thank you for joining the team. That's awesome.
All right. You have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.